that particular post is about the 8 limbs of yoga. And a lot of people get really tied up in that word yoga because obviously where our brain goes to physical practice, but that's called asana. And that's just one of the limbs of the tree. So you have these really awesome.
Hi, Mandy. Welcome to Peace Unplugged.
Hi, thank you. I'm so excited to do
Nice
this
to
with
meet
you.
you. Now, you're a okay. So you're a yoga tutor, yeah?
I'm a yoga therapist.
Yoga therapist. Okay. Tell me a bit more about
Yoga
that.
therapist.
How does the therapy and the yoga fit in together?
Yeah, so it's kind of one of those new modalities that's kind of coming around as a holistic practitioner. So it's not just yoga, right? The physical practice that everyone is associated with. So what this is a way to look at somebody, their whole person, and say, what is the root of this issue that they're coming to you with? And a lot of times I see people who the medical system has failed them. So they have a lot of chronic pain, chronic conditions, high stress, high anxiety, and really nothing is working. So it's just a different way to kind of take a step back and go, okay, if this is what you've tried, let's do something different. So we look at breathing patterns, we look at body movements, we look at, what you're currently doing, right? What are you doing that makes you happy that seems to be working? Can we expand on that? Because there's so many different ways to expand on what someone is already doing that seems to be working. And a lot of times people don't trust themselves to be like, okay, this is working for me. And it's, we can consider it a treatment. People want to go, oh, the doctor said to do this. So that means that I'm doing the right thing for myself. So it's really, giving people the skills and the tools to look at themselves and to work on what the issue is. So there's a lot to look at: sleep, diet, physical activity, mental activity, like what are you doing to keep your brain moving? Because that's just as important as your body. So it's a really, really awesome, multi-layered and multifaceted tool for you. So I love it. I love every
Excellent.
minute of it.
I love your statement about keeping the brain moving. That's a really interesting concept.
Yes. Yes.
So keeping thoughts in a kind of a positive way, keeping the way we think and the way we process information in a healthy way, doing that
Yeah.
in a healthy way, isn't it?
Yeah. Because
Okay,
it's
how
really
long you
easy. I'm sorry. It's really easy to fall into that negative pattern and that negative way of thinking. And it's very, especially when people come to you for pain, like physical pain or emotional pain, the more you sit in it and, not dwell, but the more you really sit in that pain, those receptors in your brain are going to run with it. Because your nervous system is already turned on. It's already looking and feeling unsafe. So it really affects every single system in your body. So really getting the body and brain online together is super, super mega important.
Okay, because we often talk about our gut as a stomach as like the second brain, don't we? No, you just come across
Yes.
the expression gut feeling when you have a gut feelings about something, your brain's telling your stomach or your body's telling your brain that something's not quite right, something's not quite correct.
Yeah.
Whether that's to do with
Which is
your,
amazing.
yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it, to read into that. Okay, so
Yeah.
are there
Yeah.
any
It's
are there
really
any kind
cool.
of, I was looking at your Facebook page and there was references to all sorts of kind of yoga names and bits and pieces. Could you tell me a little bit more about that? That was quite interesting because I was fascinated by that.
Was there a post in particular?
I was just looking on the on the front page and there's various kind of, I suppose they're Eastern words, aren't they, or yoga type words?
Yoga type words. I love that. We got a lot of those. Let's see here. Yeah. So are you talking about the tree?
Yeah,
Is it the
yeah,
post
yeah.
with the
The
tree on it?
there's
Yeah.
birds
Yeah.
off the
Yeah.
tree. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that is very foundational text. So that comes from the Yoga Sutras, which is a piece of work of text that just is kind of like how to be really true to yourself and to be aware and to be mindful. That particular post is about the 8 limbs of yoga. And a lot of people get really tied up in that word yoga because obviously where our brain goes to physical practice, but that's called asana, and that's just one of the limbs of the tree. So you have these really awesome ways of living, right? And the first one is the yamas. So this is like external ways that you can be mindful, and it's really being mindful of yourself primarily, but being able to look at people too and your interactions with them and like, okay, how can I be, a well-rounded person in this situation? So you have, being truthful, being nonviolent, which is, beyond actions, violent in thoughts and words, and truthfulness. The one that I like the most is called brahmacharya, and that is like sensory overload in a way and being mindful of what you are taking in. Especially now with all this technology that we have and everyone's all this screen time, and you really don't realize what that does to your brain after a while. So it's like, being mindful of like, okay, sure, like I have to work and I have to do things and I'm taking in, sights and sounds. But what can I do to kind of replenish myself after receiving so much? And that's, I think, really important in these times that we're in because we're always receiving all the time. And then you have non-stealing, which this one's really good too, because a lot of people think, I'm physically stealing from you, right? I'm taking something from you, but also energetically wise, or, wasting people's time and being mindful with the time that you're spending with people and, being, just being a good person when it comes to that exchange. And then you have non-possessiveness, which again, that's another one of, you don't need all of these things, these tangible things in your life to be a good person. Like, and people have a hard time being left alone with themselves. It's like, who am I beyond all of my possessions? What does it look like to be me? And some people have a hard time. People identify with their job, how much money they're making. You can really identify with anything these days. And people get confused with that identification as who they truly are. And, it's like, oh my gosh, like, who am I? What's my identity? And that's a really good, challenging one for people. I love that one. And then you have the niyamas, which is more of like observances, like how we can kind of observe things. And you have, cleanliness, and that is cleanliness of thought, cleanliness of body, cleanliness of space, the space that you hold. You have contentment, which is a good one for conversation because it's contentment versus complacency. People really have a hard time with, that because there is a difference. I can be content and happy with where I am, or complacency is that, okay, like this is just what it is, like that bit of surrender that comes with that complacency. And then you have like heat of practice, tapas, and that is, practice in what you do daily. People see heat of practice and think like, oh my gosh, I have to go sweat. But it's really like the heat of commitment to what I do that brings me joy, like really lights my internal fire. That's also a very beautiful one. And then svadhyaya is self-study. And that is studying myself, being a master of me. What makes me happy? What triggers me? What don't I like? Being aware of who I am, observances of how I am as a person. And then the last one is the Ishvara Pranidhana, which that's just such a long word. But in short terms, it just means, surrendering. Can I give up myself to my higher power? Can I surrender to what I am not in control of? And again, it's tricky. Some of these concepts, one is enough to be like, oh my gosh, like, what is this? But this is the practice of yoga. These little really tricky, very, very, very large concepts of what yoga can be for somebody. And then you have asana, the physical practice. So traditionally, what we think of yoga is really just training our bodies to be able to be with ourselves. So after I've studied myself, after I've become aware of these practices that bring me joy and what I don't like, and that complacency versus, contentment, then I move these things out of my body. I use these particular poses or practices to bring things to the surface and then let them go. And then you have pranayama. And this one, actually, I've been studying this a little bit because this word particularly gets confused with breath work, and it's not the same. So pranayama, prana is your life force, your energy that lives within you. And then the practice of pranayama is really other practices, and breath work falls underneath that umbrella, that helps move things through your system. So that could be breath work, it could be rest, it could be reading, all of these things that really move this force that doesn't make you feel stagnant, it doesn't make you feel heavy. And then you move to pratyahara, which is the withdrawal of senses. So it's, practicing. Have I spent 8 hours of my day in front of the screen, right? My eyes and my brain are taking in all this information. Well, what practices can I use for my eyes and my brain to kind of reset what I've taken in? Or I've been like people who answer the phones and talk a lot, right? What can I do to kind of rest my voice and rest my ears because I've spent X amount of hours, talking and communicating and listening. So it's a lot of refill to the senses that have been overused. And then you have dhyana and dharana, which is meditation, this meditation practice. And that's another one where people get very confused because they think, okay, I'm practicing a meditation. That's that cover word. But really, the meditation is the state. So the practice of sitting and counting my breath, or visual imagery, or body scanning, right? That is the dharana. That is the tool of concentration to then get to the state of meditation. And you kind of ping pong back and forth because that is the point. People think, and what turns people away from meditation is, oh my gosh, I can't sit that long, And it's the point of that is not to be superhuman and to think like, oh my gosh, I'm going to sit on this mountain and, achieve this amazing joy and all the answers. It's the human experience of focus, and then being able to train the mind to be patient enough to come back. And that's where people get frustrated, is like, no, it's not working. It's like, no, actually it is. We need that ping pong, right? Because we're not perfect. Sitting for meditation is not supposed to be easy. None of this is supposed to be easy. It's really just a different way of working through our life experience, and finding the tools that work for you. And then you get to this, top of the tree, and the word is samadhi, and it's this understanding of self, right? I've gone through all these limbs. I've kind of danced around. I'm at the bottom of the tree. I'm at the top. I'm back in the middle of the tree. And then at the very top, at some point, you go, okay, I can practice cleanliness in my space and in my words. I can practice a certain type of meditation that really works for me. And I like that it's an 8-limb tree, because there's so many different types of trees, if you think about it, and I like to tell people when they're kind of getting into this and really getting into the philosophy of this hefty practice, what do you want your tree to look like? It's going to start small and might have one practice on it, and it could be self-study. Maybe you're going to school, or you're going back to school, or you're learning something new. let that be one branch of your tree, because at some point it's going to inspire you to grow and to inquire, to grow it, to make it this big 8 limb tree. And it's having the patience and really learning about you. It's all the practice of you. And I think that's what makes it so special. Thank you for asking me about that post, because people are like, what is that?
But it just
Like,
I
what
just
are those
spotted it, and that
words?
it's a brilliant explanation of the whole thing, and it certainly informed me. I mean, I've been a mindfulness practitioner for about 16 years, within the work that
Wow.
I used to do before I retired. And what you've told me there in that explanation is that what I was doing is just kind of really just one little bit of a branch of the whole tree.
Yeah.
And there's other bits that I'm kind of aware, other bits I'm aware of. But I hadn't really sort of thought about it. And I always thought about I hadn't really done any yoga as such, thinking that more about just kind of a movement practice like Tai Chi and that sort of thing. But I know all these things are linked together. But that's given me a
Hmm.
really good, and you know, watchers, listeners here to this podcast, you know, to really absorb, go back and listen back and absorb what Mandy has explained, because it really puts a lot more things in perspective. I'm a great believer in
Yeah.
practice, and I'm a great believer in
Yeah.
this kind of building that self acceptance. It doesn't have to be right. And sometimes we have to get it wrong to get it right.
Correct.
And
Correct.
to be gentle, to be practice non judgment, or favorite word of myself and one of my other guests I had, Ray, is curiosity, doing things with curiosity. So if we
Yes.
use curiosity, then that takes away the judgment, because we're going, oh, why, you know, so if it's uncomfortable, oh, that's interesting. Why does that feel uncomfortable?
Yes.
What it is it about what I'm doing that's uncomfortable? And
Yes.
knowing that we've got choice to stop, if we don't carry on doing it, we can stop. Simple as that, isn't it?
Right. Yeah, and it's I in my one of my pain care trainings, we talked about like really coming to, coming to the ledge, right? And it's like, what does that ledge look like for me? Is it something that I've created in my head that's making me stop? Or, and again, it's that approaching with curiosity and going, what is this? Did I create this hurdle for myself? Is it a real thing, right? Because those do happen. Real hurdles come, that real hard line comes where we do need to pause and take a minute and come back. But it's that self inquiry and giving yourself the chance. And it's amazing how many people don't give themselves the chance to be curious. And, we live in such a high paced world where it's like we have to keep up, but it's like, who started that? Do you really need to be, pedal to the metal? Or what if I'm slower, right? Can I separate myself from everyone else, focus on me, and really slow down and go, okay, this is a hurdle that I heard from somebody else, right? I'm carrying someone else's baggage. It's, tainting the way that I think, feel, and respond, so that I can slowly continue to march forward till I do hit something where it's like, okay, what is this and what can I do about it? And people get scared and and this stuff is not easy. It's not. It really takes people to be ready. And again, when you're ready, that's up to you. Like, no one can tell you when you're ready. And again, I don't know where that comes from. It's like, trying to keep up with everybody else, but it's to be curious and go, oh my gosh, look at this, totally new way. Why does this make me feel this way? And what can I learn? Like, what can I get out of this? Because guarantee you're not the only person who's having this very similar experience, and just really giving yourself the shot. What better form of self care could there be when you give yourself the opportunity? I can't think of anything else that would be better. And even if, like you said, like
It-
even if you fail, there's a lesson. Release
yeah,
the ego.
it's taken me, and it still does. It's still something I'm learning to this day. Is that kind of acceptance that actually things can go wrong, and we
Yeah.
can get very judgmental. And it's caused me, in the past, those sort of things have caused me enormous emotional problems. And I kind of learned to accept them and learn to move on. And the experiences help shape us as we grow older. One of my favorite
Yeah.
meditate meditation practices that I do in group is the metta bhavana, which is the loving kindness meditation. Is that one you've ever done,
So
Mandy?
important. Yes, I
It's a
love that.
beautiful,
We call it the meta
yeah,
meditation.
where
I love
we
it.
start with ourselves and then take out to the group and take it out to the whole world. I find that a really powerful meditation, and it's really kind of it's balancing as well. We
Yeah.
finish off completely away from ourselves, being able to give in a spiritual way, give nice positive thoughts to other people without any judgment, without any kind of conditioning. It's just doing it because we can. Right. Oh,
Right. Just because
and
you
then
can.
yeah, yeah, because we're able to it, and it gives a. It's like giving to the universe, isn't it? What we give to the universe often comes back to us in abundance.
Right. And again, like what an amazing superpower just because you can, right? And the willingness to
Yeah,
be able to send that, right? To start here at your home base, recognize of like, yes, like I'm a human being having a human experience, right? Can I love myself for that? Can I accept that? And then again, radiating it outward. In the Yoga Sutras, it talks about this like release of ego. I love the way they explain it because they talk about it being, lowercase I. So the dot above the I is the dot of ego versus a capital I. And I love that imagery really resonates with me because you can easily wipe it off. You can take your eraser and you can erase that dot of ego and then look at this abundance of being able to move up, to expand up and outward, right? To be able to extend the acceptance, to extend love, to be able even to extend knowledge, right? Being able to sit with people and people who maybe don't even believe in the same things as you and having that exchange. You know what I mean? Like sharing of knowledge. Again, what a
yeah,
wonderful way to step into something that might be uncomfortable, but the growth and the love and the knowledge, the fire that that creates is so contagious. And it's like,
yeah.
it's inspiring new work. Or it's a beautiful cycle.
I love the part about connecting with people, and that can be connection, whether it is as we're doing now, Mandy, just talking over the internet from different parts of the world, or to having
I
people in
know.
the same room. And it's that kind of magical communication that we have that's beyond
Yeah.
the beyond the just see, touch, feel, smell, taste. There's something almost intangible that happens. That
Yeah. It's
atmosphere, or collective atmosphere.
Yeah, collective atmosphere. I love that. That's really a great way to say it because it's very, as biologically, as human beings, we need that connection. Like it's our nervous system looks at people, and really that's how we kind of figure out who we fit in with. Right. It's just simple as that. It's nature. But then, like, when you start talking and being in that, that space and in that community, it's amazing what unfolds. And that's why, like, I love doing podcasts and stuff because I love hearing other people that are very, like minded of myself or maybe even different. And, it's like, what can we take from each other to be able to continue to spread what is so important about taking care of yourself or, learning just for the sake of learning something new, just for the sake of connection with others. And very, being in a room full of people that are ready to, to take in and to absorb. Like that is so magical and contagious because you see the wheels turning and you see people considering and listening to them post absorbing them speaking it back to you, and it's like yes, and then their perspective is different, and it's like man, we're supposed to be doing this, you know? We're supposed to be learning from each other and evolving these concepts. This is the whole point. This is what yoga is, right? We're here to have this experience and to make it uniquely for ourselves to be able to share with others.
Yeah, it's wonderful. One of the greatest things about being alive, I think, is, and I found with the work I've done in the past, if I see somebody comes to see me, and they might be a bit distressed or upset or confused, and then if they walk away afterwards feeling better, looking better, just kind of maybe just feeling accepted, and that what they
Hmm.
came in for, they were frightened about, they've realised wasn't anywhere near as scary as I thought it would be, and they walk away feeling so much better.
Right.
You know, it's and I
Right.
don't know if you find the same thing, Mandy, is that it's just that ability to be able to sit and listen to people, let somebody tell their story, and this
Yes.
concept of listening, not listening to respond, but listening to understand, which I
Yes.
talk about frequently.
Yeah.
And then when there's time to then clarify what you've heard, did I get you right when you said that? Or did I
Hmm.
understand you correctly? And then to only to give advice if
Correct.
invited to do so, or if you want to give advice, to ask permission first.
Right.
It's respectful. It's being respectful to the other human being. Of course, me being male, you know, men always like to fix things, don't we? We've always got to try and fix something. Whereas actually, sometimes, well, actually, not sometimes. Actually, it's all the time. People, particularly in the work environment that we do, is people fix themselves. All we do is
Hmm.
we give them the opportunity, the space,
The space.
or the environment in which
Yeah.
to do that, and the permission
Correct.
to do that. Yeah?
Yeah. Holding
Does
that
that
safe
fit
space, man.
with you as well?
Amazing. Mhm. Just I
So there's
always
so many,
tell people because people, am I doing this right? Am I doing this right? And it's like, listen, I'm here to facilitate. I'm here to guide. I'm here to create and hold the space for you. There's no right or wrong in this space. I'm just here to hold it. I'm here to listen. I'm here to absorb. If you want my response, I will give it to you. All you have to do is just say, you know what? Yeah, I would like to know. Or we don't need to even say, I don't need to say anything. I can just sit here and hold that for you so that you can move in a space or breathe in a space or just simply sit in a space where it's not so heavy. And it's like, it's amazing just what that does, that safe container that you get to create for somebody. And then, them being able to leave just a half a pound lighter, or just, being able to just go, that's how I always like to look for
Yeah.
people, like the yawning, eyes are watering, the physical signs of the nervous system taking a yawn is like, okay, if that's all we get from today, what a win, It's like,
Yeah.
let's take a small win and then maybe you come back and you're ready to receive more, or maybe not, but that's okay. The space is there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Tell me, Mandy, how do you as a practitioner, or what do you do, or how do you protect yourself? Because I'm sure you realise and know that when we're working with people like this, our spiritual energy, emotional energy can get very drained. So I
Yeah.
know kind of what I do, or I have done. But it'd be interesting to hear from your perspective if there's anything, things that are maybe the same or things that are maybe different. Maybe we can learn off each other. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I spend a lot of time outside, regardless of the weather. I practice Ayurveda, and that's a sister science to yoga and yoga therapy. And according to that practice, they say to spend at least 90 minutes a day outside. And I live by that. And I go outside regardless of the weather, and I'm outside, whether I'm, under something, but I'm outside and I sit and I listen and I, turn my phone off, or I leave technology inside my house and I go and I just submerge myself in nature. And then I have a very thorough self care practice. And that took me a long time to really figure that out. It really did because I worked in such a heavy environment, and there was time where it was like I was trying to figure out what it was to be able to not bring that energy home with me. And sometimes it's I have to lay on the floor. I do a lot of somatic practices that really is a very big release for me. I'm big on myofascial release, really moving tissues and that deep inner body work to kind of release, to let my body relax. And yeah, I don't compromise on my sleep. I eat very clean, as clean as I can. Don't get me wrong, I love a good chocolate from time to time.
Don't we all?
I mean, come on now.
I called it illicit Prozac. Chocolate is illicit Prozac.
I love that. It really is. It really is. And then two, on top of that, I like to just be in quiet and observe. I'll journal from time to time. I love to color. That's another one. I love to color, create. I love to be creative. And it's a good way to kind of stay connected to myself. It's very like my practices. And again, it's not like I do all of these things all of the time, but it's kind of depending on, have I had a super mega heavy day or has it been relatively light? And then it's like, okay, let me start with being outside and then let's see what I need after that. So lots of different types of
But
practices.
I see that being outside. I'm wondering whether that's either consciously or unconsciously drawing back, refilling the energy from nature. Perhaps that's just an
Yes.
interpretation. I'm
Yeah.
kind of thinking. I think it's probably where I get that from. Or I sometimes find if I've got emotions that are trapped in, or I've worked with somebody, or I've had a hard day, when I was working, working full time. That kind of being outside gives an opportunity to let those emotions go, to let them be free.
It's a
I'm
big
lucky I live right on the
space.
coast. I live right on the coast, so I can just go down to the coast and
Oh,
look
oh.
out to sea and just let it go, because there's no people out there.
Yeah.
It's just nature.
Yeah, I think
It's a
too,
beautiful thing,
like,
isn't it?
yeah, I think for me, constantly energetically and physically, we're inside of things. Like we're in a room, we're in a house, we're in a building, we're in a car. And I think being able to go outside to where there are no bounds to how much space you can take up, I think, in my opinion, I think that's why it's so liberating and freeing because there's no constraints. I can be as big as I need to be, or, I can be as small as I want, but that just being outside and to receive, and I also like it's one of those things that everyone has it. Every culture seems to have some version of this nature therapy. Like I always think about the Japanese and their forest bathing. I'm like, uh, of course, like that
Yeah,
makes, the fresh oxygen, like that makes so much sense. And it's like, okay. And then the Ayurvedic practice of just being outside for 90 minutes and letting the sun or the rain or the wind touch your body. And it's just like this, such a force to be reckoned with to just recharge your being.
yeah.
It just makes so much sense. It's amazing.
It just had me thinking now, that's easy to do in the summertime, but a bit of summer rain, um, to step out, maybe just to step out and mindfully stand in the rain and feel it and experience it. And don't worry about getting wet because
Yeah.
you get wet. Just be there. You can go back inside and get changed afterwards, but just experience
Yeah.
that, and notice the feeling of the raindrops falling on you. Especially, I think summer rain is lovely for that. Can be really
Oh,
really nice too. I've
so lovely.
seen some people coming back from a concert yesterday, and there'd been rain where we are, and they got all the covers on them and everything else. And of course, you will do because if especially traveling a distance.
Yeah.
But maybe sometimes it's just that case of actually just okay. The weather's not cold. It's only a bit
Mhm.
of rain. You're gonna get dry soon. Just
Exactly.
just be there for it. Beautiful. I got
Hmm.
the other question
Right.
I asked nearly nearly all of my guests, Mandy, is, and I'd like you to think about this in a maybe perhaps a deeper way than you, because a lot of it you've covered anyway, because we do in these sort of these questions. To think about what brings you peace, and maybe look at that from not only from your conscious mind, but just think for a moment about what might come to you from your subconscious about what peace means to you and
Hmm.
how you find your peace.
That's a really, really good question. What comes to my mind is a flower. And again, that might come from just how much I love being outside, but the observances, I love to sit and watch like the bumblebees travel from flower to flower. Maybe it's watching things that are bigger than me take place. That brings me a lot of peace. Yeah. And I think also the journey that I've been on personally in my life, I think that also brings me a lot of peace because I've done so much, I've learned so much, and I haven't lost myself in anything. And it's like that, reflection and the gratitude that I have for myself and the gratitude to my teachers, that too brings me a lot of peace. But I
That's
think definitely
peaceful.
the things that are bigger than me.
Things that are bigger than
It's
you.
a real,
That's a real takeaway. That's a real takeaway, I think, for people that are listening and watching in on this. Think about the things that are bigger than us and just accept them what they are.
yeah,
Okay, so if people want to get in touch with you, Mandy, this is your blatant chance to advertise
finding moment.
yourself on my podcast. Okay, as we
Amazing.
get ready
To part ways. Time has flown. All right, let's see. Where am I? I am on Facebook as Blooming Moon Yoga and Holistics. And Instagram, I love people who reach out to me on Instagram. I feel like everyone's on Instagram. It's Blooming Moon Yoga _. I'm very active in social media. That's definitely the best place to find me and to connect and send me a message. Let's chat.
yeah, yeah, it's really important, isn't it?
It
Okay,
is.
Mandy, thank you so much for coming on my
Thank you,
podcast.
Martin. This has been so awesome.
Okay, so we're gonna uh, so I'm gonna stop the recording in a minute. So just carry on, keep things on because if I'll do it, I'll stop it now.
Okay, it's good.
So we're still connected. So what you might notice is on screen is if you enjoyed this podcast, please follow, like, and share. Thank you very much. Martin, Peace Unplugged.